Billy talk about the randomness. Formation Rome to UFOs. We'll take you where the weirdness goes. It's two guys talking way too loud about stuff that makes no sense, but we're kinda proud.
Welcome to the show. We are so excited to have you back with us for another amazing episode of All the Everything Podcast. As always, I'm one of your co-hosts, Tim Sawhook, joined by my beautiful co-host, Billy Parchman. Billy, how you doing today,
Man,
bud?
I am good, brother. How are you doing?
Doing good. Happy. It's, we're getting into November and
right.
getting closer and closer to the holidays, which is stressful at sometimes, right?
Yeah,
Thinking
absolutely.
about getting gifts together and stuff already, and then thinking about how do you get to all your family when people are in and out of town. So I'm starting to think about those kind of things right now. What about you?
Right. Yeah, man. Well, it's not even Thanksgiving yet, but the girls are already trying to get the Christmas decorations out. I
Well,
mean, it's
you know what?
ridiculous. Yeah.
Yeah, no, you know what? That's a whole nother conversation we're gonna have as we get a little closer
Mm-hmm.
to Christmas. And how early is too early? Is there a rule you follow as a family? Is there a societal rule that we're supposed to follow?
Oh,
Or
man.
is this everybody mind your own business and do whatever you want?
That's kind of how we've been rolling with it. Like, Chloe wanted to decorate for Halloween, like in August, and so we let her. We've had a lot of our Halloween decorations were, Nightmare Before Christmas, which is
Oh, right.
us. It's a year round. Like, we can leave that up from Halloween to Christmas,
Yeah,
but
exactly.
but yeah, August, not even September, August.
Yeah.
Things are going out, and she loves to decorate, and it's like, and even before Halloween even happened, she's like, Christmas is, we gotta go Christmas. I'm like, we got Thanksgiving. I mean, turkeys
That's
and
awesome.
mashed potatoes and all the goods, But
She
that's just
sounds
how.
like the character on SNL when Kristen Wiig could keep a secret and she's like losing her mind. She'd freak out if she had a secret to tell, which is like ready to fall apart. That's how I picture your daughter right now with wanting to put out Thanksgiving
That's really how
or
she
Christmas.
was. Yeah, really how it is. Yeah, it's crazy.
Well, how was your weekend and week leading up
And
to today?
it's been good. It's been good. Been dealing with some back issues.
Mm,
But I'm trying to get that under control. I had an old back injury, still dealing with it. I fell
yeah.
out of a tree when I was a kid, but
Explains a lot of issues too, besides
yeah,
the back.
yeah. So I'm
A lot.
tr- just trying to get after it, but
Yeah.
not die in pain. So,
Yeah.
but other than that, fantastic weekend. Y'all have a good one.
We did. Matter of fact, so my daughter, she just turned 21. She
That's
goes to
right.
college at the University of Ohio, not in Florida. And it was parents weekend, and they always bring in like a big act, something fun. And so what they had was Sal from Impractical Jokers.
Love it.
So he had like an opening act that was great, but he was so funny. It was funny how they picked apart the school a little bit and things that people complain about. But like he just started out his run on his tour like 5 weeks before, so everything's kind of new and things. But it was so funny. It was a much needed laugh. I don't think I've
That's
laughed
good.
out loud that hard in a while,
Uh-huh.
and I can tell that I was really loud because the people in front of me kept turning around. I would be like,
You getting the
"Mind your
looks?
business, mind your business." Yeah, but that was super fun. Just watching football all weekend and
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
doing all this stuff during the week to keep busy and get back here so we can have another fun episode.
That's right. Well, I'm excited. Episode 2.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're going to say from the very beginning, if you loved episode 1, which we hope you did, please go
Yes.
leave a written review on iTunes. Obviously there's many pod players, there is Spotify and iHeartRadio and so forth and so on. But if you would please leave a review for us. I don't want to seem like we're begging, but we kind of are a little bit. Like,
Please.
please, give me the review.
I need the reviews. Come on. The
I
family.
I don't know where that came from. I
Me
listened.
neither.
We're Italian, but I liked it. I'm here for it.
Sorry if I offended any Italians out there.
We didn't. We base everything and we know from Super Mario Brothers. That's about
right.
all we got.
That's what it is.
Mario and Luigi. But we got to get into our episode today. Billy, what are we talking about today?
Oh, well, this one is near and dear to both of our hearts because we lived
Yeah.
it. I'm living it right now. That would be stay-at-home dads.
Yes.
Yep.
Very excited about talking about this. I remember when we were like pitching the podcast back and forth to each other as far as topics, ideas, and stuff when we were going through numerous amounts of things we could go through. But one of the ones we both touched on was like family, but I can't talk specifically stay-at-home dads.
That's right.
Because like you said, it's big and near and dear to both of our hearts. I went through it. You're going through it now. So
Mhm.
we have a lot of similar experiences, but different.
That's
And
right.
we're gonna get into all those. And we hope there's some stay-at-home dads who may listen, or if you're listening and your husband ever did a stay-at-home dad, and not that we're taking anything away from stay-at-home moms, like we all know they're the real rock star heroes, the stay-at-home moms. But I feel like we put on our cape many times and have also become the superhero of our families. And we're gonna get into all of that today. Billy, are you
That's
ready
right.
for it?
Let's dive in.
Let's dive in. So I will start with my story first, and then I'll
Okay.
kick it to Billy, and we'll kind of go back and forth. So
Okay.
my journey as a stay-at-home dad started back in 2003. My son Luke at that point had just turned 2 years old.
Mhm.
I was working at a company who did social media, not social media, but customer service and everything for big credit card companies. And I just got laid off right
Oh,
before
man.
my wife was about to have our second child there in October of 2023. Or 2003. I'm all over the place with my dates here. 2003. Sorry, guys. And the initial plan was for her, when the baby came, for her to stay at home, and I would continue working and doing that. But how things played out, she was more of the breadwinner in the family. She was a
Mhm.
teacher. She made really good money, had like really good benefits and things like that.
Absolutely.
But also going on during that time when we were both working when our son was born is you have to find childcare, right? And
That's right.
you try different things, different scenarios, see things that work for you, don't work for you. And initially, we started him off in a daycare program that was down the street from us. And what we found out is that during that time, he'd be coming home each day with bite marks on his
Oh,
arms,
no.
on his legs. And we would call and talk to the people, and they're like, yeah, no one else is reporting anything. We didn't see anything about it. And so we kind of like, all right, maybe this is a one-off, because you're new. This is the first time you being a parent. You've never experienced this before. Is this
Right.
common behavior you experience with a lot of kids being in one area? Um, and then it continued to happen. Like the next, a couple of days later, maybe multiple bite marks on his arms, his legs, whatever.
Oh, man.
And so I went up there. I was furious.
Furious. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
About to
I
drop an
mean,
elbow. I understand.
and so this is what happened. I go into the lobby, and to the right is immediate was the manager's office, or the person who ran the
Mhm.
daycare. And I started talking to her, and I wasn't mean out of the gate. I was just like really
Firm.
concerned. Here,
Yeah.
my son keeps coming home with bite marks every single day, and what's going on? And she has the nerve and looks at me and goes, "Well, we've never seen anything, so we don't have proof that it actually happened here." I was like, "Wait, what? You're telling me just because you didn't see it, it didn't happen?" She's like, "Yeah, kind of." And so I told her right there, I got really pissed off. I said, "So if I haul off and I kick you right now in your shin as hard as I possibly can, and you're in unbelievable pain, if nobody saw it, it didn't happen?" She's like, "No, no, 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 I'm not saying that." I'm like, "That's exactly what you're telling me, is like you guys won't have any
What?
responsibility." So we ended up obviously pulling him out of there, and we found out, guess what? Guess who was the parent of the kid that was biting everybody?
Was was it that ladies?
It was the manager who ran the place.
What? That's
Yes. Yeah,
mm,
oh, we were so furious about that. So obviously we got him out of that situation. We tried another place, what was called Little Leprechaun Academy,
yeah.
and we liked it because there was a lot of activities. They cooked food fresh for you there, but they had cameras in there everywhere, so we could tune in and
Right.
see what was going on. Well, we see him. It did bug us that he had his shirt off for the meal. A lot of kids took their shirt off because they were doing arts and whatever. It wasn't like he
Yeah,
was
sure.
naked or anything, but we saw him, a helper, come up and jerk him by the arm and pull him up and drag him
Mm,
across the room. When we're like, nope,
in the
in,
car.
in the car, out of here. And so we were kind of at our wits end there. We didn't really know what to do in terms of like, where do you take your kid that it's actually safe? You
Right.
know, and I mean, still the question that people have today. And so Leslie worked as a multi-handicap teacher, special education, and so she had an aide named Patty who worked with her. And Leslie came to work crying because of the situation. She was so stressed out, didn't know what to
Sure.
do. And the lady Patty said, "You know what? I pretty much hate this job. So how about I quit and I'll watch Luke for you?" And we were like, "Really?" And she was like, "Yeah, I will totally do it." So it worked out. She went to him. She had 2 other kids. It was an amazing, amazing experience. But that's when I lost my job.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
so when we lost our job, we couldn't really afford to keep paying her anymore. And then also, recoup money from bills and things like that.
Sure.
So it was brought up because of the situation that we had been putting Luke in and all these different areas that, he had negative impact with. And I was like, I don't know if it was me or Leslie, to be honest, said, what about if you stayed at home with the kids? And so this is back in 2003, right?
Right. Hmm.
2003, there was no talk of stay-at-home dads. Like there wasn't stay-at-home dads weren't on TV shows or they were being represented. They were on talk shows or having magazine covers talked about being a stay-at-home dad, right? And my
Hmm.
first fear that crept in was like, what are people going to say if I'm not working? I'd been working since I was 15 years old. I've always worked. Like the man always works. Why would the man stay at home and watch the kids?
Right.
I
Right.
was so worried about what my dad would think, what other guys would think, what other people, and I was so nervous about that. But we're Christians and we're big believers. We prayed about it a lot, and it just had a peace about it. So
Sure.
that started my stay-at-home dad journey. So initially it was just my son Luke being 2, but my wife was pregnant with our daughter to be, and I was home with them briefly, just us together. But then my daughter was born, and when she was born, she was a preemie. She was born, I think my wife's gonna kill me when I don't have this number right when she hears this podcast.
Oh my
I,
goodness.
I think 5 weeks early. I think
Okay.
not 100% positive about that, but extremely early. She was born a preemie, had to be at the hospital for a long time. So
God bless.
um, going through all of that as being a stay-at-home dad, having to bring Luke to the hospital every day, and Leslie would be there, and it's the constant them checking with him with the doctors and everything that goes into being a preemie. Like if they stop breathing, then they have to be there another week until they can breathe on their own fully,
Hmm.
and
Right.
all the stuff that went with that. But eventually, she was healthy. She got home. You know, all that was taken care of. But the journey of the stay-at-home dad was really crazy because even though my wife and I, we were always co-parenting, there was never like, hey, you change all the
Sure.
diapers, you feed
Right.
them. It was never like that. So I always changed diapers. I fed him. We did bottle feeding, and
Hmm.
everything was equal. But as I took over being the stay-at-home dad, then it was like, oh, this is going to be all me, like all the time, most of the time, until my wife would get home and and help out later on in the day or whatever. So it was
Sure.
hard getting used to being the stay-at-home dad feeling of being the like sole purpose of all their attention, all their needs, all their anger, all the things that they wanted kind of laid on me. And it gave me a better appreciation for moms because we all
Sure.
know as dads, I mean, we could be sitting there watching a football game for 5 hours. The kids won't say a word to us, right? But mom sits down for 5 seconds. They're all over her, right? They're like up her rear. They want it all. They want this. They want that.
Yeah.
So they gave me a better appreciation of what moms are like usually most of the time, and
Hmm.
it was an adjustment. And I figured, like, how was I gonna get through this, like, day to day? What was I gonna do? I mean,
Right.
I can't just sit in this house day and night and try to entertain them. And they are both young, right? My son, eventually we got him into preschool, but my daughter was really young, so I was dealing with an infant and then a toddler. So it was very important for me to start a schedule early on. Like Mondays would be this, Tuesdays we'd go here, and Wednesdays maybe
Right.
not. Blah blah blah. So what I started was something with them was we called it Library Mondays, right? And what we did is this is as my daughter got a little bit older because as an infant I wasn't really taking her there. But we would get in line like at the very beginning because here was the thing with Mondays at the library. Those were the days, and this is back in the day, Billy, when they would put out the new releases DVDs.
Oh, nice.
And so it was
Yep.
like the Hunger Games to get in there and get like the new movie
Sure.
releases, either ones for adults or ones for
Right.
kids.
Uh-huh.
Do you ever remember those days as the library being a go-to place?
Yeah, absolutely. Like when I was a child, or with my kids were.
I guess to the point where you would know that there was DVDs available at the library.
Oh, so yeah,
Um,
so
more
yeah,
as an adult, maybe.
that was more towards the adult, because back in the day it was old VHSs for me. You know what
Oh
I'm
yeah,
saying?
yeah.
Yeah, which they had, but
Mhm.
but yeah, I do remember
Um,
those days.
okay, all right. And so that was a big deal for the kids. Like I,
Yeah,
I kind of got them competitive. Like, hey guys, we got to be the first in line every Monday. Like we're gonna get
right.
there before it
We got
opens.
to get.
Stay there. It didn't matter if it was like freezing outside. We were there, and we would
Uh-huh.
be like sprint over and get the new releases, and then go pick up books and do all the fun things. But that's a memory they still talk about today. Was Library Monday because we never
Oh, I
missed.
love
It
it.
was always
Yeah.
something very fun. And I mean, the rest of the week, we do some learning stuff at home, but
Uh-huh.
obviously entertaining them with TV shows while you try to get food together and all the craziness. Um, as time ticked on, my son had gone to preschool, and I cherished taking them everywhere. Like the car rides were so
Right.
fun. I used to be a DJ. My brother owned a DJ business. I've always been highly
That's right.
DJ Timmy Tim on the ones and twos. But I've always been like big into music with the family and the
Sure.
kids, having them dance. So it was always a dance party in the car. Always having a lot of
Mhm.
fun driving around back and forth. I know you're relating to this now, getting in the car line to pick your kids up, drop them
Yep.
off, all those
Yep.
fun things. Um, that was a lot of fun. But as my daughter got older and she was in preschool, my son had just started half day kindergarten, I think, at that point. They would do things where it was very cut and dry. There was pumpkin carving with dads only. That was only a thing they would do with dads. Or
Okay.
there was like a mommy and me workout type thing during the day. Now, my wife taught, so she could not
So, yeah.
attend these things. So there was one time that was so hard for me and my daughter, I guess, at that point. It was a mommy and me workout day. So I figured I'm a mommy today. So I got dressed up in my workout stuff, and
Uh-huh.
I showed up, and I was with Lauren in the front thing, and all the moms were there with their kids. Lauren completely rejected me.
Oh,
Completely
no.
rejected me in front of everybody. Was crying. I don't want you
Oh.
here. I want mom here.
Oh, no.
I felt like such a piece of garbage in that moment. I know she didn't make me feel like that on purpose, but I'm thinking
Right.
do everything for you. I'm here working out with all the moms, doing the
Right.
workout moves. Like,
I thought
you
you were
think I
about to
want to be
say
here?
the librarian, sorry, you can't be here. I thought she was about to kick you out.
No, didn't get kicked out of the library.
Yeah.
Um, but that was one of the struggles back then, right? Because stay-at-home dads weren't a big thing. People weren't used to
Sure.
it.
Right.
And that was hard having that rejection because she was embarrassed because her mom wasn't there.
Mm.
All the other moms were there.
Right.
And the time of the year would come around for October when it would be pumpkin carving. And my wife wanted to go because it was sometimes she was actually off work at night.
Right. Like
It
fall
was a
break,
night thing.
yeah.
Exactly. But they would only invite dads for that kind of situation. So it wasn't a very clear like gender role thing where it could be
Sure.
fluid, right? Like anybody should
Right.
be able to come carve pumpkins or
Right.
work out with dad and mom or whatever the case was.
Right.
And so that was a big struggle for me during that time frame. And because the only friends I had were other moms that were at the, go to the playground. They want to go with their friends.
Yeah.
I'm like the dads with the moms. And it was an interesting dynamic to say.
Oh,
Um
yeah. I can imagine.
it was crazy, right?
Right, the time period back then, and just the way, with time, things change, and just the way
Mhm.
people feel about certain things change. Like the
Yeah.
things that happened in the '90s, things wouldn't pass. You'd be arrested today, or just
Oh, yeah.
blacklisted, like canceled. A lot of things like that, and just with the stay-at-home dads back in the early 2000s versus where it's more, I don't know, acceptable, or just more people do it
Yeah.
nowadays. It's
Yeah.
different. It's
It's
different.
more represented.
Right.
Definitely. I mean, you
Right.
think of some of the comedy shows that are on TV, there are a lot of stay-at-home dads on these shows.
Sure. Yeah.
And like I said, it figured for me what was the biggest burn is like as 10 years passed, that's when all the stuff started coming out. Like, oh, stay at home dads are
Yeah.
great.
And you're
And
like,
so
I'm
I'm like,
already past this stage, dang it.
I was struggling so
Yeah.
bad to find my way back then, and like had no other stay-at-home dads to talk to, or I mean, really, I knew nobody who was a
Right.
stay-at-home dad. Now I wasn't on like late night chat boards looking for other stay-at-home dads. Like, hey, who wants to
Hey.
chat? Hey, what
Yeah.
changing diapers and
Right.
but after it was all said and done, my time with the kids, because I ended up staying at home with them through the point where they both were in school. I had
Sure.
Lauren after Luke was in school, and once I got her in. But I think back to when I first started being a stay-at-home dad and all the fears I had and all the anxiety of like, what are people going to think and what are people going to do and what was my dad going to say, but not
Mhm.
all those kind of things completely were gone. And I would say to this day that was the best thing that I ever did in my entire life, was staying at home with those kids.
Sure.
Like,
Yeah.
hands down, the best experience I ever had. And
Absolutely. And how special that was. Yeah.
oh my gosh, yeah, because not a lot of other
Yeah.
dads got to do that. Not a lot of moms
No.
get to stay home either. I'm not trying to
Right.
say
Right.
only moms get to. People have to
Yeah.
work. But it worked for us during that time period.
Yeah.
And now all these years later, I'm so proud about it, and so excited to share my story and tell people about it, encourage other people out there. And I know you're going to through your story here coming up,
Mhm.
is that you're not alone out there in this little journey, and maybe
Right.
with more resources that are available today, maybe people don't feel that anxiety as much like I did at the very
Sure.
beginning. And I'm interested to see how you felt when you first started doing it. What couple other funny things that would happen is I would take the kids to the mall. I mean, we go
Oh
to the
yeah.
food court, get some
Uh-huh.
lunch, and it never failed. As soon as we sat down, somebody had to go poop or someone had to pee,
Oh gosh. Yeah.
and I couldn't leave any kids there. And I'd have all this food, and I'm like, "Oh, what am I supposed to do?" So I always have to rely on some random stranger, like, "Please, ma'am, I have to take my kids to the bathroom. Can you please make sure they don't throw our food away?" Um,
Right. Yeah.
because we weren't very well off back then, so throwing
That's
out a bunch
better
of
than
food to the
saying, "Hey,
spot.
can you watch my child, please?
Yeah.
Please.
Why
You can
eat?
watch my
You take
food. You can." Yeah, that makes more sense. Can you?
Will you take my kid to the bathroom? I mean,
Yeah.
you look like you've been through it, so,
Well, I'm
um
glad. I'm glad. I'm glad it was just getting people to watch your food, not your child.
oh, yeah,
And
that's
stranger,
what it
please. You nice lady.
I
You
mean,
look
as you
nice.
you look like you've left your kid before to eat food. Um, but, like, things like that were just played through it really hard.
Mhm.
I wanted to I'll do this at the end. There's some things I wanted to share about stay-at-home dads, some statistics and things, but I wanna
Right.
go with you into your story before we do that. But
Absolutely.
there
Okay.
there's countless stories to share, and I'm sure they'll come up as you and I start talking more through the rest of this podcast. Um, the hard times, bad times, always the constant changing of diapers and how gross that
Right.
is, but
Mhm.
you gotta do what you gotta do. People throwing up,
That's right.
and nobody
Oh
else is
yeah.
picking up but you.
Exactly. And make them do it.
Uh, yeah,
Just
make them
kidding.
do it, yeah. Clean up your own mess.
Oh my goodness.
But
Well,
that's a little bit of my story now. But just to give you an idea how long ago it was, that was 2003. My son is 23 years old right now. My daughter is 21. So I'm
yep.
well past that, right? We can talk
Right.
about as Billy's kids evolve over the years. We'll talk about teenagers and things like that. But
Oh, nice. Yeah.
just speaking of stay-at-home dads, like I'll say this one more time, and then we'll shift over to you, Billy. Is that, like, again, it's one of the proudest things in my life that I've ever done, the most fulfilling. And I've done a lot of fulfilling
Absolutely.
things and had a lot of
Right.
amazing experiences in life. And I thank God for that. But that was hands down best thing I ever did. So this is your show, my friend. What do you got for us?
Well, yeah. Let me start off by first saying I just checked on her. She's doing great. But my little 5-year-old is actually home sick from school today. I mean,
Mm,
she was not feeling well this morning. Like, she was sick, but she's feeling a ton better. And she has her iPad and she's hanging out in my bedroom. She has her headphones, and but there's still a 50% chance that she comes busting in the door, and we'll just roll with it.
yeah,
That's part of being a stay-at-home dad. I
exactly.
don't. Let me just go ahead and say, I don't let her veg out like that often. But when you aren't feeling well, every once in a while it is
Hey, yeah.
appropriate, I guess.
Mental
But
health
yeah,
day, right?
yeah, and just feeling a little bit better and everything.
Good.
So
Good, good, good.
yeah, we're getting through, and we'll go pick up sister from school here in just a little bit. Another big tale of becoming a stay-at-home dad, but it kind of just to share my story
Yeah,
on
please.
on deciding to become a stay-at-home dad. My wife is a pediatrician,
Mhm.
and I made the decision way back when, that it made the most sense for me to stay at home and watch our girls.
Right.
It was not a sacrifice. It wasn't like, oh, I'm taking a back seat or anything. It was something that I was happy to do and
Right.
blessed, beyond blessed to do. Um, it just made the sense because what I was making at my job
Right.
um, before Chloe was born, my oldest, and she's now 8. Um, it just didn't make sense for majority of my paycheck to go towards somebody else watching my kid. Like, I'm working so somebody else could watch them when I have
Right.
the opportunity, and the blessing, because my wife's a pediatrician, that
Mhm.
um, obviously I'm not the hard work and just the determination and being a business owner, with our practice. It just that made the most sense. I mean, that's
Mhm.
that was the option. And
Yeah.
so yeah, and so I decided to stay home, and I'm so glad I did, because and this let me go ahead and just say for our listeners out there that I just want to kind of give like a trigger warning,
Mhm.
for those that might have experienced a small one, having like health issues or um, surgery, having to deal with that. This will go into my story a little bit, but I just kind of want to throw that out there before I go any deeper.
Mhm.
But I'll go ahead and tell you, it's thankfully, a good thing now. So to say all that, um, when my oldest daughter, Chloe, um, when she was born, uh, she would breathe real heavily, like kind
Mhm.
of almost like a grunt. Like she was like, oh, she's like a really grunty baby, uh, you know. And so,
Yeah.
oh, is she having a hard time breathing and everything? And so, we were going to her 2-week-old checkup,
Mhm.
and I had made the decision. Okay, I had left the University of Alabama, a job that I loved. I did event planning for them, and I'm now fully committed to taking care of this beautiful baby. Thankfully, I had my wife, obviously, because she's on maternity leave,
Right.
um, and it was a good. I had never changed a diaper before. I had a very, very um, weak stomach. I thought, oh
Yeah.
God, how am I going to change a diaper? Like like I'm just gonna throw up on this baby. Like I'm gonna throw up on this baby. But thankfully, that never happened.
Thank God.
I had a stronger stomach than I was thinking. But yeah, we went to her 2-week checkup at our practice. Michelle's not her doctor; that's not legal. But Dr. Megan, one of our other partners at our practice, is her doctor. Um, and when we take her in, we can't get a good oxygen read on her,
Mhm.
and so that had them really concerned. And then they pricked her finger to do a little blood test. And when they did that, it put her heart into what they call SVT. And
Mm.
basically, what that means is that her heart started beating really, really fast.
Mm.
Um, and and so we were advised to take her fairly quickly to the emergency room at Children's Hospital, which is an hour away.
Mhm.
It wasn't dire, like we didn't need to get the helicopter involved or anything like that. We can drive her ourselves. We didn't have to get an ambulance. But they knew we were coming and they were waiting for us. And I did drive a little faster than I normally would.
Okay.
Just it was a freaky doctor's experience, and everything. And so, I book it there. They're waiting there, and we get to the emergency room, and all of a sudden, like 20 nurses and doctors just jump on this little girl.
No, that's so scary.
Um, and there's tests and wires and all these things, and they bring in the cardiologist, and he's doing the echo, and um, I hear these words: "We have a really sick little girl here,"
Mm.
and it just shattered me. It was the scariest day of my life. We get her admitted into the cardiac ICU. And basically, what we found out was that my 2-week-old daughter, first time dad, she had a coarctation of the aorta, which basically means her aorta was extremely narrow. Like there was a
Okay.
point of it that the blood flow was not getting, it was cutting off her circulation. And that's why she was so grunny. But she also had multiple holes in her heart.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
and Michelle was saying different things like, I guess at a certain age, there's some kind of flap, or I could be this. If you're like a medical person, you're like that does make no sense. Uh, it, it it did make sense. I might not just be explaining it right at all. And Michelle listened back. That's not what happened. But basically, she said like right at that same part, like something was closing, and it was closing the holes. The holes was letting the blood go, and so that's why she was okay up until that point in her life, and wasn't like we didn't know until like 2 weeks into it. But it was just all like divine God's timing to
Yeah.
get her there. Um, and yep, she's admitted into the cardiac ICU, and we are, like I said, it's the scariest day of my life. I'm terrified. I don't know what's
Mhm.
going on, and I'm having making phone calls to my parents. We had to call her parents, and her mom comes down and everything, and we find out, yeah, she absolutely 100% has to have open heart surgery.
Oh,
And
wow.
so they get that scheduled for a few days later, and then it's time for her surgery. Um, During this time, we got set up. Let me just go ahead and say we got set up at the Ronald McDonald House, Charities of Alabama.
Mhm.
They are literally 1 block from Children's Hospital because we lived an hour away.
Right.
And so, like day 2 of our stay, we had to stay somewhere off, off in the distance for the first night. But we got there on the second day, got a beautiful, just like clean and wonderful room that was
Mhm.
literally I could run to her room in like 3 minutes if I had to like
Oh, wow,
run.
that's amazing.
Yeah, it is right there, and I will forever be grateful for the Ronald McDonald House Charities of Alabama. And so, um, yeah, and I'll talk more about them at the end, but let me just go ahead and just say how wonderful, amazing. So we're right there. We are in this. She has her open heart surgery, and the surgeon is as cocky as can be. Like
Mm.
he's not a people person, and you know what? I'm 1,000% okay with that. I
Mhm.
want him to be as cocky as he can possibly be. I want him to be
Right.
the best surgeon possible. And so, and he told us beforehand, he goes, okay, after the surgery, I'm going to come into this little room. We're going to bring you in. If I'm there for a long time, it's not good. If I'm there not that long, I'll tell you what happens. I'm going to leave. I mean, he's not a people person, like I said, but I'm
Okay.
okay with that. And
Alright.
so he brings us in after this, like they're giving us updates. Okay, we opened her up, we did this precision, like, like they're every so often they'll call me up and say, okay, we're at this point of the surgery.
Right.
um Finishes the surgery, he brings us in the room. um the great thing about having a doctor wife is doctors can talk to doctors in doctor terms,
Right.
and they know
Exactly.
this. I want you talk to her. she'll she'll relate that message to me, like she'll translate it after you're done. like
I need some
like
doctor translations,
Yes,
yes.
you don't have to dumb it down. You just talk to her, um, and she will tell me afterwards in layman's terms. And so that's what happened. He tells her everything he did, that it went. And I was like, and then like he leaves, and I was like, was that considered a long time, or are we good? She's like, yeah, we're as good as the situation allows.
Right, that
And
allows,
so
right.
yeah, and so we are in the hospital for a little bit longer, for about a week. But thankfully, having a doctor wife, and the fact that that little girl was ready for, she was ready for a bottle, like, and she ate well. Um,
Oh, good.
we got to come home early, and so the journey of a stay-at-home dad begins. But the decision for me to leave my job
Mm-hmm.
and to become a stay-at-home dad was all confirmed that I had this little
Yeah.
baby that had these like she needed her daddy,
Yeah.
you know, and her mommy, obviously, especially her
Mm-hmm.
mommy, but she needed me. I didn't need to be paying somebody else to watch her. And that just all confirmed it for me. There was no stigma. I didn't have to, like, you went through it a lot harder,
Yeah.
in the early 2000s, I guess, as far as, oh, he's a stay-at-home dad. Like people say that in the time frame that this was in 2016.
Okay.
So it's 13 years later, and the times have changed quite a bit since then. And so I never had that stigma. And I did start a new career. I became a travel agent,
Right.
and that allowed me to build a business from home with that beautiful child with me.
Yeah.
And starting a business like that, you do have to build your clientele. And so it wasn't like I was just like I put up strict guidelines. Like, I am going to work when she's napping, and I'm going to stop when she's awake, and like
Mm-hmm.
and so I was there fully, but I still had this creative outlet that I had, which was very helpful for me
Mm-hmm.
throughout that time. Um, and I had the blessing. You were talking about going to the library and
Yeah.
and doing that. We had that weekly as well, and they would have the bubble machines, and they would read stories,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
and
Story time.
I have all these videos, and we would go see Mama at lunch, and we would go bring her a donut. Like, we would go to the
Mm-hmm.
donut store, and we would get our donuts, and then we bring Mama a donut and go see her at at um, at lunchtime, and everything. So it was a really, really, really special time. 3 years later, Miss Lillian, who's in the back room over here on her iPad right now, uh, she uh, she was born. I had Michelle home, and so we're on maternity leave again, and I um, I have that little buffer to get used to doing this all over again,
Yeah.
but now with a little 3-year-old in tow. And it was a beautiful thing, but it also looked a lot different than the last time because she was born in June of 2019,
Okay.
and just a few months later, like basically right when she got her shots and could go out into the world again, you
Right.
know, when we got out of the phase that we had to, just keep her away from people who,
Mm-hmm.
to keep her safe and stuff. Like, once we get that, the world shut down with COVID. And
As
so
it
now,
does.
yes. And so now I'm at home, and we can't go for our walks around the mall. Like it was when it was too hot outside, we would just go walk around the mall in the air
Yeah.
conditioning and different things like that. Um, and so we couldn't do that because everything was closed and it was chaos.
Mm-hmm.
But we made it through. And it was, like you kind of said, it was the greatest thing and the greatest blessing that I've ever experienced. I got to watch these babies grow up, and now
Yeah.
they're 8 years old and 5 years old. Um, and they are the sweetest little girls in the world.
They
Um,
are.
and I I would give, like the fact that I didn't miss that is one
Mm-hmm.
of the greatest blessings of my entire life. And I
Right.
truly, truly, truly mean that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. It's huge. It's a huge opportunity. And I actually felt guilty for Leslie is, because we started off at the very beginning. And then when that got to like 5 years later of me still doing
Mhm.
this, her missing out on things. I knew it bugged her too because she wished that she wasn't the breadwinner, and she could be the one to stay at home and me go work as well. Was tough in that scenario. But again, like you said, it was one of the luckiest things, the best things that's ever happened to me in my life. Would never
Absolutely.
go backwards. I mean, I could go on to endless stories of dressing up like a princess or having Lauren,
Yes.
she called herself Miss Brenda back in the day, and she would like fake cut my hair, and I would, lipstick on and all the things.
Oh, yeah. We did makeup and fingernail
yeah.
polish, whatever.
I have to say though, I was an all-time winner at that game, Pretty
Pretty
Princess.
Princess. We got Pretty Princess.
You
Oh yeah,
know, you wear the clip-on earrings
yes,
and the necklace.
absolutely.
She didn't like the fact that I would win a lot at that, but hey, I can't help that I'm a pretty princess. It's just the way
Right.
God made me, you know?
That's
And
just the way it goes. Yeah.
is there any like one like funny moment that stands out to you in all these years that you've been doing this?
Well, kind of like one of the just the more recent funniness is just the way they talk. Like
Okay, now we need some
so
examples. Let's go.
okay. All right, I got a whole bunch of them for you. Okay, so Gen Z, the terminology has made its way to her elementary school. And so third grade, I can't tell you how many times I've been called, Dad, you're so cringe. Like all these Gen Z terms, cringe, obviously it just means you're embarrassing, basically.
Oh yeah.
But here's some other words. Can we just take a second and just kind of go through some of these words
Let's go rapid fire on these.
that my 8-year-old says, and now my 5-year-old says because her big sister says. Okay. So we got cringe.
Mhm.
Okay. Another one is that they say a lot is preppy. You think back in the day, like, oh, Zach Morris, he was always called preppy.
Yeah.
Tommy Hilfiger wearing clothes, preppy, and they just kind of, oh, that's so preppy, like use it as an adjective, like for bright or something cool, like, oh, that dog is
Okay.
preppy. Like they'll use it for just things that don't even make sense. It's
Right,
supposed to be
exactly.
colorful and different things. Sigma is another one I hear a lot, which is supposed to be like a cool guy. So when I say, oh, Dad's Sigma, no. And
Yeah.
so it's just like, yeah, Dad, if you're going to say Sigma, it's supposed to be like for a cool guy. Dad's Sigma. Oh, no. They're not having
I
it.
I feel like I'm pretty Sigma too.
Another one is buff, like meant for a guy like buff. And like, he's strong, obviously,
Yeah.
but they use that kind of like as an adjective. And I'm like, Dad's real buff because I am actually kind of buff. I'm not just saying that. No. Sus, like
Yeah, so
suspicious,
mhm.
extra,
Yeah.
which was like dramatic. Riz, that's another
Mhm.
one that is said a lot, which just basically means you have charisma, which
Got
apparently I don't have. Like anything good, I can't ever
You don't
get unless they want something. Like Lily, like, Dad, you're so buff. She said that the other day. Like, you're so buff. And I'm afraid she's going to hear me say that, and she's going to come busting in. Like, what are you talking about, me?
Yeah.
Another big one is slay. They say this was probably one of the first ones. Oh, that's so slay.
Yes.
Anything awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. I have also used slay many, many times. So
Yes.
it's funny, we get these words from our kids who are adult and they're saying these things, right? And not coming from a little kid perspective, but my daughter, anytime she's in like theater and college and stuff like that, anytime she does anything good, I'm always like, "Slay Queen, go
Yeah,
Lauren!"
exactly.
She's like, "Dad, I'm gonna kill you."
She's like,
I
yeah.
use it so much that I said it to a lady at Target the other day. We were checking out and she did something else and was like, "Well, Slay Queen." And my wife looked at me like,
what?
What did you just say to this random stranger? But I stick by my Slay Queen.
Absolutely. GOAT, greatest of all time, which, if you look that up under the dictionary, you'll see a picture of Coach Nick Saban.
Yeah, or me.
Bussin'. That's really, really good. That's a good thing. That's really bussin'. The mac and cheese is bussin'.
Yeah.
Stan's another one. Stan is a combination of stalker and fan, but in a good way, not in a creepy way. So,
like if it was like
that's
a boy who was like creeping on you in a good way.
if you were like, I guess so. I guess so. If like he's a fan, or if you're a fan of somebody, you're a stan of somebody. I guess, if that makes sense. And I could be saying that wrong. I'm old. I'm in my 40s.
What do you know about Stan?
Yeah. When they ask people on TikTok, they're like, what do you consider old? And they're like, if you were born in the 1990s, or if you're born in 2000, I'm like, I was born in the 80s.
Dude, I was born in 75, so
yeah.
I don't want to hear your woes.
Yeah. Vibe. You're having a vibe is another one.
Yeah.
you ate that. Ate is another one. Like you did something real well. You ate.
Yeah.
That's one. But
So many.
but I'm gonna end on these two. Okay. Skibbity. Have you ever heard skibbity?
I've heard of it because people talk about it like on social media
It
and stuff,
it
but I
comes
don't really know
from
what it is.
it's like, okay, it comes from this little skibbity toilet YouTube video where this head pops out of the toilet. It's like skibbity. It's like this song, like it's just like this viral thing that went over.
Oh, okay.
And so there's no clear meaning. People use it to mean cool or dumb, or it's just an adjective, but it basically can mean anything. But
Right.
from that, and you'll like this a lot being from Ohio,
Okay.
if you have skibbity Ohio Riz, that's bad. That's
Oh.
really bad.
Oh no.
Ohio is just bad as can be because on not Fortnite, sorry. Oh, what is it that they play?
Is it Roblox?
Roadblocks. Thank you. Ohio is like there's games about how, like, if you go to the evilest place in the world, it's Ohio.
I feel that so much.
You have to escape Ohio. But Skibbity Ohio Riz is an insult to like a weird person. And so they tell me a lot that I have Skibbity Ohio Riz. And I'm like, nah, I got just that straight up Riz Sigma
Oh my
slaying. So
good God.
yeah, so that's just
That's a lot.
to kind of go through all these new terms that I'm trying to digest. And I'm like, that sounds so stupid.
Well, you know what? As being a stay-at-home dad or any dad, you are definitely prone to the dad jokes.
Absolutely.
Legendary for dad jokes. I do
Mhm.
them all the time still today. Like one of my ones I say all the time, and they hate it so much. We'll be talking about something, and they're like, "That was so intense." I'm like, "You know what else is intense?" And they're like, "What?" I'm like, "Camping." And they're like,
That's
"Oh, camping it."
It's
Oh,
like,
Dad, that is so
Dad,
stupid. I do that now. Even
Dad.
my wife hates it. I think it's hilarious, but again, it's the dad. It's the dad part of it that comes out.
Dad,
Yeah.
God.
Oh, exactly. So
Oh yeah, but yeah, we're in that kind of we're not quite to preteen, but we're in that like influential, like,
yeah,
trying the terminology. And well, I guess we had terms as well growing up that we said, and our parents were like, huh, I guess I guess it's just a rite of passage.
yeah. But these are way weirder than what we had growing up.
I agree 100%.
It just sounds like gibberish people are coming up with,
Jibba jabba
right?
jibba jibba. Yeah.
Like the stuff we had was like awesome because of like 80s, 90s, right?
Yeah.
Everything was awesome or cool,
Yeah.
or I can't think of anything that was so weird like that. There probably is. I'm
Awesome.
just
Yeah. Awesome and cool. And then I guess in the 80s it was like tubular and more like
like bad to the
Michelangelo,
bone.
Donatello, like it's just like all these all these different
Yeah.
things there.
I guess you're right. Like I said, every generation has their own weird words that everyone else thinks is weird but them. So
Yeah.
maybe that will be a topic one day.
Yeah.
Weird slangs.
Yeah.
No, but yeah, so we have different beginnings to our stories, but the stories are parallel. And I can just give you some advice, Billy, looking at you right now, is that stay with it. One day you're gonna freaking miss it so much.
Oh,
Um,
I say that all the time. Like even just in these last 8 years and just like 5 years, just like it's going by so fast.
yeah.
Like my oldest daughter is halfway to driving, which terrifies me. Like I can't even ride in a car with Michelle. Like
Oh,
I'm the one that always has to drive, and I can't imagine having Chloe or Lily drive.
yeah.
Like I'm gonna have to be on so much medication. I'm not even joking. That's not even a joke. Like,
Uh, what I
but
would say now, if parents who are kids went through high school, graduated, gone through college, graduated, still one in college, but we're empty nesters now, is
right.
something that no one really told us, but we kind of knew, but we weren't really someone that gave us a discussion about it, was pay attention to all the lasts. Like, this is the last time I'll ever pick her up from preschool, or the last time she rode the bus, or whatever. Because you don't, when you're up in it as a parent, you don't think about it. It's just everyday life, right? You're doing it, and then you
Yes.
realize, like, oh, that was the last time we ever gonna do that with them. Or I remember when Luke got his
Yeah.
license and he left the house and drove away. Me and Leslie both sat there crying. We're like, he just left us. But we didn't focus on all the last and celebrating those last, like, because it
Yes.
was a big deal. So that would be my advice to you: is pay attention for the last. Even though
Absolutely.
they may be sad and hard to deal with, they are definitely something to celebrate and remember.
Yes, and I think that's one of the really good things about me just personally is like I yes, I focus on those things. Like I'm thankful for like just the being able to experience and spend time with them and stuff like that. And so I
Hmm.
know how big of a blessing that is. And so I'm trying not to take anything for granted and just try to be in the moment and help them experience as much as I can with me, you know,
Hmm. Yeah.
being a part of that. Cause I know one day, like, I just can't imagine just not talking to him every single day. And I know that's going
Right.
to be a thing. Like, that just doesn't even,
It's
uh,
hard. It's hard.
yeah.
But you know what? You don't have to worry about that right now. You still got
Yeah. I
plenty of
still have some
amazing
time,
time ahead.
but
You
it's
got
going
plenty
by
of time
quick.
ahead. It does go by quick. So
Yes.
that's my advice to you. Pay attention to all the last. Celebrate everything.
Yes. Absolutely.
Everything. Um, but yeah, this has been fun today. This is a weird way, not a weird way, I guess, but a different way for people to get to know us a little bit and find out our little
Absolutely.
backgrounds to what made us who we are today.
Yeah.
Everything that I went through as a stay-at-home dad impacted who I am today. And
Mhm.
celebrating everything, and even as the kids got older, when I wasn't a stay-at-home dad with them really anymore, but just
Yeah.
celebrating and everything. Everything's a
Yeah.
big deal. And sometimes, like I said, life happens. You get caught up in every day to day where seems exhausting sometimes. But when you take a step back and celebrate the little things and just know that they're valuable as much as the big deal, really gives you perspective and fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I wouldn't change a dang thing. Like,
No,
I'm so gosh, I mean, I can't stress that enough how thankful I am. Yeah.
yeah, it's just an amazing feeling, and
It is. It really
I
is.
want to say thanks to my wife Leslie for allowing me to be the stay-at-home dad. She could have pushed
Exactly.
on me to go get another job, and we'll figure out some daycare
Mhm.
situation. And because, like I said, stay-at-home dads back then were navigating a brand new waters and stuff, but she believed in it, and then she saw
Yep.
how amazing it was for our
Yeah.
kids because a lot of kids aren't raised by their dads.
Right.
Um, that's not a bad thing. They're raised by their moms either, but they really don't get this kind of opportunity that you and I have had, and it's something really, really special.
Right. And I mean, I think that that's one of the things Michelle, she tells me all the time how thankful that she is that I was able to do this. And
Right.
you know, especially like when, dealing with a health issue or like today, like Lily is having to stay home from school. I know for a lot of the parents that have to, they don't have that option. Like how blessed we are that
Yeah.
we don't have to stress about trying to find a babysitter today.
No.
I'm I'm 4 hours away from my parents, and
Hmm.
we're 3.5 hours away from Michelle's, and so, we don't have that family, so it would be like, "Oh, I gotta find a babysitter," 'cause
Right.
I don't take that for granted that I'm able to, work from home and, um, be here for days like this,
Yeah.
um,
Absolutely.
and so it's a beautiful thing, and she always thanks me for that, and I'm like, "Hey, I'm blessed," and I know it's the same reaction, like, I guess, like, when my dad would come home, like, "Oh, dad's home," and, like, I'd be all over him. She gets
Right.
that, like, and the poor thing, she goes and she does with kids all day long, and then she has kids that climb all over her as soon as she gets home, and that poor lady she doesn't get a minute, poor thing, but,
Yeah. I'm
she
sure she
she
loves it
she
though.
wouldn't change it for anything either,
Of
so.
course. Of course. Well, this has been such a fun topic. I'm glad we got to do this earlier than
Yes,
later in our podcast episodes. And
absolutely.
we just want to thank you guys for tuning in today. And before we wrap up, again, if you could leave a written review about the podcast, we would greatly
Please.
appreciate that so we could get
Yeah.
this out in front of other people. They can have a little fun with it, maybe learn something from it. And also, we will put up all of our stuff for our socials. We have the link tree,
Mhm.
which is link tree at all the everything podcast. So all of our social media handles are at all the everything podcast. So we
Except for
have
Twitter. Twitter, because of yeah, Twitter is all the every pod. That's the only one that's different
okay.
because
Okay.
Everything was taken, and they only allow 15 characters or
Okay,
14
got
characters. Yeah, we were one short. So,
Come on, Twitter.
gosh, X.
Come
I
on,
mean,
man.
X.
All right.
Elon Musk. Give me another character. Give me
Yeah,
one more
exactly.
character.
That's all we want.
Screw it all up, man.
You have self-driving cars. Just give us one more
Gosh.
character. That's all we
We got
need.
robots that'll serve you an alcoholic beverage now, and
We can't get one character.
one more character.
All right. So all of our handles are at All the Everything Podcast. There is, except for Twitter, which is all the Everything Pod, or X again. I can't even get this right. But we're on TikTok, we're on YouTube,
Yes.
we're on Instagram, Facebook, and we
All
want to interact
the
more with
things.
you guys on Facebook and
Yes.
Instagram. We want to hear from you. If you have any stay-at-home dad experiences or
Please.
any comments about our experience, we would love to hear from you guys, and we want you to be included. We want to create a great community where we can all come together and share stories and just celebrate what life is, a bunch of randomness, but all tied up in a nice bow. And thank you guys for joining us. Billy, any parting thoughts before we go?
Just thank y'all. That's all I could say. And follow.
All right. Well, you guys take care. We'll see you next week for another amazing episode of All the Everything Podcast. Have a good day, everybody.
Bye, y'all.